Now let's look at the MoviePass model and incorporate Monte Carlo simulation features. The uncertain variables are how much increase in movie going rate there will be, and then the consumer sensitivity. Now, if we have raw data from the past, then we can try to fit a probability distribution to that data. But both of these variables, okay, we don't have any data from the past. How much increase in movie going will there be among subscribed customers? Okay, there is no past data for that. And how sensitive consumers will be for purchasing subscription, again there is no data. So we have to come up with what is most reasonable in these instances, and we may even try different probability distributions. For increase in movie going rate, one possibility is normal distribution with a mean of some value and then a standard deviation. And another very reasonable distribution is a PERT distribution, where there is some probability for the increase to be kind of small, and then there is probably a reasonable probability that it will be quite high, and then much of the probability will be kind of in the middle. Now, if both on the lower side, on the higher side, if it is equally probable, then we are looking at a normal distribution. But if you think that it is kind of skewed in one direction or another, then a more appropriate probability distribution will be what is called a PERT distribution, where we specify the pessimistic, optimistic, and then the most likely value. And we do the same thing for consumer sensitivity. So we can then set that up here in our model with, so we have the low, most likely, and high, right? And 10%, 25%, and 45%. Then 1, 3, and 5. Okay, so now we need to format this properly. Let's put borders here. Let's do it like that. Okay. So now we can code the probability distribution here. So instead of a fixed value of 25%, we're going to sample values from this distribution. So there are a couple of ways in which we can enter the probability distribution. So we can simply type in risk PERT, right? And then say, okay, so these three values, okay, like there, and then enter that. Okay, that will work. Or we can go to the function here in at risk and select risk PERT, and that will open up a window here, input box, and then you can enter the values here. All right. But when you're not sure what probability distribution we need to use, the best thing to do is to go to distribution, select define distribution. And the advantage of this is, as you will see, if you select PERT, you're going to look at a visual representation of what that distribution will be like. So Now if I go and enter the minimum value, which is that, most likely value is D12 and the maximum value is E12, right? So now we have a representation of what that distribution will look like. And we can try different values here. Instead of entering the cell addresses, you can try. So for instance, instead of 0.45, what if it is 0.7? So it will be kind of more skewed this way. What if this is, instead of 0.1, it is 0.3? And here you can't have most likely to be smaller. So what if this is 0.5? Okay. So you can try different values here and see what works best for you by looking at the distribution, shape of the distribution. So now I'm going to put this back to what we originally had. You have to click that, and then that to be that, and that to be that. Okay. So now click OK. Now we have the risk part defined. So risk static is your, if you're not doing a simulation, then that would be the static value. You can, let me show you how to get help. In this case, so you can click the FX, that will open up this box, and then you can click help on this function, and then you will get the help screen for PERT here, because that was the distribution that we used, and you have some information about risk PERT. Now risk static, it returns the static value during a standard Excel recalculation. So that's what that is. And we don't need to have that. We'll get rid of it. Click OK. So now we have risk PERT set up for increase in movie going rate, and we can have a similar one for consumer sensitivity. So once again, we can go to distribution, define, okay, we'll select PERT. Okay, so now select that one for the minimum value, most likely value, and then the maximum value. And now you get to see what the shape of the distribution will be like. So, and then you're satisfied. Okay, so click OK. And once again, we don't need the static value, so we'll get rid of that. So now we have set up the inputs to the two uncertain variables. Now we are ready to run the model.